Hey, this is Dave with Rough Notes Magazine. We're all about helping agents and brokers thrive, and we're impressed with what you're doing. Can we feature you and your team on our front cover?
Darren, tell me the feeling you had when you first found out that you were going to be on the front cover of Rough Notes magazine.
Well, when that phone call came in from Dave Willis, the editor-in-chief, I was floored. I was without words, which is, you ask anybody around here, is a rare happening. But I was definitely humbled and, extremely proud, for my team, because it represents their work, not my work.
Mm-hmm.
And I just blown away, flat out. I was without words. And finally, Dave talking, and he said, kind of quiet. I'm like, yeah, I'm just, blown away and, really humbled by this, opportunity to be on the cover of Rough Notes.
It is. What did that conversation go like with your team when you got off the phone with Dave, and who did you go tell? And I mean, because it is exciting, right? I think sometimes they think that we're just saying it, but we are excited because we know that this is really them. How did that conversation go?
Well, I kept it for my team for a short while because it was when the phone call came in, it was a few days away from our Christmas luncheon. So I used that as a present to explain to them, that there's some things happening. And one of the things is that we were going to be featured on the cover of Rough Notes for February. So that was one of my gifts to them, and that they would be involved in, everything that was going to be going on. So, I told my wife, of course, right away, like she doesn't know insurance, but she thought it was pretty cool being on a cover of a magazine.
Right.
I let my mentors know and my accountability partners right away, and they were all excited for me. So it was a proud moment and a humbling moment. The one person I haven't told yet, I'm going to keep it 100% surprise, is my dad.
Oh, wow. So when are you going to tell him?
When I send him the magazine after it comes out.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. That is really cool. I was listening to a guy the other day, and he was talking, Darren, about how it's hard to be able to truly give if you don't know how to receive. And I think that that's true. And it goes true when you're trying to receive the praise that you are from as being distinguished in our great industry and being on the front cover. So I'm going to ask you questions, and I don't want you to make you feel like, oh man, this is overload. This is your time to be able to brag on these beautiful things that you've done and this beautiful business that you have built that has gained the recognition that it has. What do you think was the reason why? I've never asked anybody these questions either. I'm just asking you. Just for you out there, you Rough Notes listeners, Darren and I know each other, have for years. So this is more of one of those intimate conversations. Darren, why do you think that Dave, what was it that found about your agency that said, hey, they need to be on the front cover of our magazine?
Well, I think it was a couple of reasons. Number one is, we're in Florida. We, just a few short months ago, experienced one of the worst things that could have happened, 2 hurricanes within 3 weeks. And so we had gone through that. And so I think part of that was, talking about the experience that we went through there. How did we, go and to let people know that we're still here. We're not going anywhere. We take care of our customers. We survived 2 massive destructive, events. And the people
Which, Darren, tell everybody where you live, where you're specifically
We're
at.
in Largo, Florida, right, just Clearwater, the Tampa Bay area.
Right.
And we experienced, Helene and Milton within 14 days, back to back. Massive destruction. We're still doing cleanup today. We still have customers that have not moved back to their house, haven't even started the rebuild process. It's a disaster. And so, I think part of the reason is they wanted to focus on Florida. I'm not one that's out there talking about it. We just put our heads down, and I'm like to be the quiet one in the back, learning and watching everybody. But people know, and, we have grown and have been very successful in this industry, but it hasn't become a silver bullet that we, went out and bought some class for $2.99 and said, oh, we're going to be successful. I mean, success is defined by the individual. There is no real definition of success in this industry.
True.
I mean, success is defined by how hard you want to work in this industry and how you define that word success. A lot of people define it as freedom. Well, I'll buy that. Freedom of time, which for me is important, because I had a family and I was able to enjoy the time growing up with my two daughters, I could be there for the sporting events. I was the coach with them during that.
Amen.
I mean, but you have to work hard. That means if I'm giving up time during the week, that means my weekends or at nights, I'm still working to take care of our customers, because we don't have anything without our customers. Bottom line, it's about the customers. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that sign our paychecks.
That's right. That is exactly right. They do. So Darren, why do you think, besides why do you think Dave did? Why would you think that you would be recognized? What's a shining example of why your agency is one of the best in Largo or in the surrounding area or in Florida or in whatever niche you do? Why would you say, what's your reasoning?
Man, this is so hard. I mean, because it's just not who I am. I don't want to be braggadocious.
I understand. That's why I started off by telling you this.
One is integrity. If you ask anybody, there's no gray area for me. It's either black or white.
Okay.
There is not. Relationships. And when I say relationships, I'm not just talking with my customers. I'm talking about with my team. They know I've got their back. They're what makes me successful. I can't do it myself. We have a team of 14. I'm one of 14. I'm in the minority, but I have to set the direction for them. And I've got team members that have been with me 14 to 15, 16, 17 years. I've had people come back twice because the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
It's not. That's right.
Nope. But so part of that is the way I lead. I'm not a dictatorial person. That's just not who I am. But I respect them as an individual. I have their back, and they respect that. And I always try to do what's right for them as well as for the customers.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's kind of like, I don't know if the word cliche is right. It's almost like that. It's like, oh, well, I'm not anything without my team and I think that I think that if 20% of us are business owners and 80% of us are those who work for business owners, I think the reason why sometimes that seems cliche is because I think sometimes it's coming from the 80%. I think if you're a true business owner, you really understand how important that is, right? And maybe you've got to be like narcissistic somehow to not realize that your people are the ones that are really making and doing everything that we're doing, every success that we have. And it's so not cliche. And you just can't express it enough to your employees. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They're the ones that give me that freedom. I was gone last week with my family so I could enjoy time with my family. I couldn't leave if I didn't have a team behind me supporting me.
That's right.
And if you use a sports analogy, look at the quarterback. You can have the greatest Tom Brady as your quarterback, but if you don't have a line around him or receivers and running backs, I don't care if you are Tom Brady. You don't win. It's all about the team.
That's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. And sacrifices. I was listening to an podcast just the other day with Tom Brady, and he was discussing this, that he never was, very rarely, I think there was a couple points in time in his life that people don't realize, that he was not always, very rarely was, the highest paid person in the league. And that was purposely done. He said, I wanted to be respectfully paid. He said, but I always wanted to make sure that we had enough money for a good second offensive line.
Correct.
He's like, it was inevitable that somebody's going to get hurt in this line that we have. I want to make sure that person is good. He's like, because as long as I can be protected, I can do what I need to do to make us win. Right. I thought that was really interesting.
That's spot on.
Yeah, it kind of goes right along with it. And sacrificing what he could have had so that he can then give it more, have a better team. And he won 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah, just look at the figures.
I don't know about you. Sometimes we just make this a little bit too tough, Darren. Darren, I'll talk to you about something about this, and tell me something that you have imitated, okay? And here's what I want to say to you on this. I was listening to a gentleman who was talking, and he said something. He said, most time people think that success comes from innovation. And he said, from creating something new. And he says, and what we don't realize is if we really look around the world, we realize most things come from imitation.
Mm-hmm.
He said that it's looking and realizing if Starbucks works here in America, it's probably going to work in China, right? If this Uber worked over here in this state, it's probably going to work in other states, learning from those different types of things. What have you imitated?
Oh, it'd be better if I said who I imitated.
Okay, that too.
And I think there's three that really stand out in my realm that I can say that I've imitated and want to be like. Dr. Billy Williams.
Man, so come on now, Darren. Come on.
Mike Stromso. And my man, Mick Hunt.
Mickey. Yeah.
Success leaves breadcrumbs. You don't have to recreate. You just have to take what they have done and implement. There's that word. Mm-hmm. Implement.
That's right.
And it's not you have to implement everything. Start with one thing. If you do one thing new every month, that's 12 new things in a year.
Mm-hmm.
That puts you so much further ahead of everybody else. But it takes the discipline to do that. You must do that in order to be successful. If you stay status quo, you're being passed over. Status quo is nothing like a C in my book. And I don't like being C students.
Yeah, no,
I'm not a mediocre person.
And in this industry, though, there's so many examples of areas, not even with a specific person. If you see something that if you're on a Facebook or something and you hear an agency is having success doing this, mm-hmm. right? There's a good chance that a lot of people would be like, that wouldn't work for me. I bet you a lot of times it would, not all the time. I get that. Nothing's always. But there's a lot of times what we don't understand is we try to imitate that same thing, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody came out and had the same exact coffee as Starbucks and had the same exact look, then there comes that point in time where you have to say, well, where is the difference? Where am I trying to do this? But it's about taking it. And there are a lot of coffee shops across America that now have opened up. Coffee shops are way more plentiful now than they were before Starbucks, right? People just realize holy cow, people will spend $6 on a cup of coffee. I can sell it for $4 and still make a crap load of money, right? And so it all they imitated. They didn't have to innovate. They didn't have to make a new coffee machine or some kind of new kind of coffee, and I think that's important. And I think so many times agency owners, and I think that, here's something I'm going to say, and I'm just now thinking of this, Darren, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think that back in the day, and I'm going to say 70s, 80s, and 90s, before Cass was in the insurance industry, I think imitation was probably easier accepted than it is today. It seems like today, everybody's got this thing of, no, I can do it my own way. I think we've fallen into this trap of, hey, we're independent insurance agents. And that just really means we're independent of the relationship with the carrier, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we should be independent from each other in what we're doing. I think today, it's well, somebody's doing that. Oh, I can't do that. And it's no. The only reason you're not doing that is because our communication channels have shown you what he's doing. And 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen what he was doing. So you would have just assumed that what you were doing, you were the only one doing it. And would that make sense? Do you think that? I think you've been around a little bit longer than me. No disrespect, not much longer.
No, I think so.
Well, your hair's gray. I mean, I've been in it 26 years. Or 24 years. How long have you been in it?
A little bit longer than that. I'm in the 30s.
In the 30s? Yeah, see, it's not too much longer, though. You remember the 24. So anyways, what do you think about that?
No, I think it's true, but I think part of the reasoning for that to be true is look at our methods of communication nowadays. We didn't have the internet back then. The only way you found something to imitate or copy was you went to a conference. You ran across somebody.
Right.
Now we've got YouTube. It's instantaneous. We got Facebook. We got X. You name it, we're getting it. But it still boils down to one thing. You still got to implement it.
Dude, Darren, you said that earlier, and you're so right. Implement. You've got to still implement it. You've got to. It's all right there in front of you. It's already been done. Yep.
Nike nailed it. Just do it.
I was talking with Ryan Hanley a couple months ago, and Ryan said, Jason, everything that we want to learn, we can read by dead authors. It's so true. There's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? Everything that's been experienced out there. The only thing I will say that's new, that's not under the sun, that's a little different, Darren, is AI. I think AI is creating things that no one has created before, right? Because
Is it really? Or is it doing it faster because it has a bigger repository of data to pull from?
I mean, when
it's not going to create a new renewal process. A renewal process is a renewal process.
When you can recreate Beatles albums and they're really, really freaking good and people are like, holy cow, this isn't the Beatles, right? That's what I mean by creating new.
Right.
Taking actual creating new music, new things, creating new recipes. There's been over like 1.5 million new recipes that have been created by AI of food that we would have never put together ever. But also a lot of it had to do with there's some spice out of South America that you and I would have never known about, right? Mm-hmm. But by bringing collectively everything together, now bringing it down into our insurance agencies, I think right now AI is nothing more than a workhorse.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion.
It's a cheap worker.
What'd you say?
I said it's a cheap worker that works fast.
Correct. And that's where we're going, right? Right now we have licensed workers, we have unlicensed workers, we have artificial intelligence, and we have RPA. Mm-hmm. The way I've been kind of explaining it, Darren, and we've totally gotten off track here. Sorry about this.
That's all right, we're good.
Listeners. The way that I've always explained it is that these 4 things are how we can do things in our agency. There's really no other way to do it.
Right.
And so if we bring those down, what we're going to start to see is it's going to go into 3. And meaning by the fact of going into 3, AI is nothing more than where all the data and knowledge is. RPA, robotic processing automation, is the hands and feet. So whenever you have a licensed person and you have an unlicensed person, you have this AI and this robotic processing automation that starts to come together. You're going to start to see that there's going to be 3. And I think I'm writing, I've got a podcast that I just did on this. It's called Digital Staff, Digital You. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is that we're able right now using AI and using RPA to create a digital staff, but we're also able to do that personally and create a digital personal self. And I won't get too much into that. But I think when we start looking at that, like, in 80 years, when we have that thing that Darren has never died because he lives in a hologram that we've put all the information into and it recreates who he is like stunningly, I think that we're starting right now at building that. We just don't realize it, but we're building that right now. And so I think that's the beginning of the wave there. So sorry, right. Rough Notes listeners, and sorry Darren got off on that.
We can go down that rabbit hole all day long. Anytime you want to talk about that.
Well, it's so intriguing to me because the amount of time that we are saving on things, in my opinion, it's absolutely phenomenal. Now I'm using it more on a personal side when I'm creating video, when I'm creating blogs, when I'm creating, it's nice to just have an idea. I can say to it, give me some ideas and thoughts on innovation versus imitation. When I heard that guy say that's what I did. And it gave me a ton of thoughts. And it's like, which one of these do you want me to break out and explain to you more? And I'm thinking to myself, I have 4 podcasts right there. I could just riff off each one of those. And then when I take that podcast, I can take the transcription and I can tell ChatGPT to create a blog using only my words of this transcription or all my words. And it creates a blog with soul. Mm-hmm. So now, just by hearing somebody talk on TikTok for 15 seconds about innovation versus imitation, I put that in there, came up with an idea, recorded a 15-minute podcast, took it, transcribed it through ChatGPT, have written a blog and everything. And that would have taken so long for me to do. And it took me less than 30 minutes. And so those are the things when we really start to look at productivity. Are you going to start using these things for those? And I think that's where AI really is still early. It's not able to actually do the work yet. Like all that stuff I just said to you, did you realize how much manual stuff I still had to do? But each day that stuff's going to start going away.
Fast.
It's going to start going away.
Yeah.
And that is where the great separator lies, Darren.
Well, you're either going to have to do that to stay competitive financially.
Yes.
Because, labor is going so fast and it's so expensive. You need to dial that back to, because the margins are getting smaller and smaller.
They are.
And you've got to find that way to take that mundane, repetitive stuff off of your plate so you can start using this, which is what your customers want. They don't want to know that you're the fastest keyboard operator there is. That's not what they want. They want to know I've got an agent that understands risk management and can educate me and make sure I'm protected. That's what they want. And the only way to do that is take that other stuff off your desk.
Darren, wrapping this baby up, anything you want to say to Rough Notes, anything you want to say to all the Rough Notes listeners out there, any form of education you have to us, anything you can say where we want to learn from people like you, brother?
Well, I think the easiest thing to look back and say is, number one, is I was honored and want to thank Rough Notes for giving us the opportunity and representing them and being on the cover. I mean, it's just, the cherry on the cake for my team to recognize them for all their hard work. But for the agency owners and the people in the business, it's about getting back to the basics. We keep thinking there's a silver bullet out there, and there's not a silver bullet out there. Mm-hmm. If you want that silver bullet, start utilizing AI to free up your time so you can go do what really freaking matters. Taking care of your customer, building those relationships, doing the blocking and tackling. It's not about, I'm going to have an AI answer my phone. No, answer the dang phone. Have that conversation with your customers. But you don't have to sit there and do, typing of all the emails. Let it do those things. Let it attach those documents in your agency management system. Mm-hmm. Let it do that kind of mundane work. But pick up the phone. Talk to your customers. We had a gentleman in here yesterday. We have a referral program, and we got to give away our annual referral award and prize to them. They wanted to talk. They didn't want to do anything remote. They want to talk. They want to shake your hands, and they want to sit there and see you face to face. Mm-hmm. That's a relationship, and the person that came with them has been one of our customers for over 15 years.
Right.
That's what makes you successful. They are staying, not because of price, but it's the little things. Mm-hmm. We're human. Utilize it. It's a human-to-human transaction. If you want to call it a transaction, it's still a transaction, but it's not going to be a robot to a human. They don't like that.
Nope. So we use them. We use a Gail in answering, mm-hmm. and how we use it is we put her in the ring group, mm-hmm. and if nobody else answers, so this is where it's gotten to like 4 or 5 rings.
Yep.
And then it comes in, and I got to be honest with you, Gail's so great. Half the people don't even know that she's AI. The other half, though, if they realize it's AI, they hang up and then they call right back, right? Yep. And we know those people, but we've also educated our people in understanding that, like, hey, we don't want you to get a bot, but we also don't want you to get an answering machine. That's what we always
ring the bell.
Right. This is a new age answering machine, is what it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's all it is. It's still the same thing. We just put a different coat of paint on it.
Right. It now once it can put things into the CRM effectively. Once it can set tasks up and assign them, knowing who they are and putting things in the pipeline, you still have the fact of you're saying it's not about the process being done. It's the customer wants to speak to the person. And I think that that's so right. I do think also there's a time that customers just want to get shit done, right? They just want to get something done. But at the same time, I still don't think they want AI. They may want a mobile app. They may want some other type of thing. But I think a lot of times people
if you're a customer that just went through the freaking hurricane and your house is destroyed and you're standing on the roof trying to get reception, do you want to talk to a robot or do you want to talk to a human being?
Right. Totally.
Our customer wanted a human being, and we're floored that we were here with the hurricane overhead still taking live phone calls.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yep. That's why you're on the front cover, brother. That's who you are, Darren. Darren, I appreciate your time, man. All you Rough Notes listeners, another person that you can learn from, the one and only Darren. I hope you're having a great, happy new year out there, because I know that I am. I think 2025 is going to be electric. I do think it's going to be challenging to all of us agents out there. I do see a big, what I call a whiplash of what we've went through in 2022, 2023, and 2024 with rate increases going up. I think we're going, markets being driven out. I think we're going to see an opposite of that. I think we're going to start to see markets start to open up. The hurricanes delayed it a little bit, but you're going to start to see those markets open up. And when they do open up, I challenge people. I've got a podcast that I'm releasing in a couple days. And it talks about this. It's about when the markets open up, are you prepared? right? Because your renewal process, which has been lackadaisical for the last 2 years because we really haven't had any options. So we've just told our customers, hey, sorry, this is the best we've got. So we haven't had that. Our new business hasn't been on point lately because for the last 2 years, because we haven't really had to concentrate on new business and worry about it because we just had automatic 20-30% increases in the growth of our revenue because of rate increases. So we have to really start looking. The opposite is going to happen now. And so it's looking and realizing that these people who Dave and his team find for front cover are people that we have to really listen to, and we have to understand where they're coming, because there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of influencers. There's a lot of people out there who love to talk about how to do things this way and that way. And you'll also notice that those same people are not the same people that are around today. But you will notice that those people who are on the front cover of Rough Notes magazine are people who have been doing it through ups and downs economically, hurricanes, wars, whatever it could be, and they're still here. And I think there's something to learn from that. So once again, thank you, Rough Notes magazine. Thank you, Darren, for laying that golden road that people like myself and people even younger than me get to walk upon, this beautiful insurance industry. And thank you very much to all you Rough Notes listeners for taking your time to listen and find out how to be like Vermost. This is Cass, and he's Darren, and we are out.